registered owners on real estate in Canada have, in Canadian law, no legal rights whatsoever. And I know that most people don't understand that, and your lawyer won't tell you the truth. But we have laws, including secret filing, that are an invitation to commit fraud, and they're perfectly legal. And these laws are so criminal, they're banned in every country but Canada. Now, all the evidence is on my website for free while I live, and it's on YouTube infinitum for free, in the hope that someday someone will give spousal support and protection and registered owners the democratic rights they deserve, and not go through the brutal torture and the bankruptcy that my mother and I endured as a direct result. And I'm doing the best I can, but I have to close. I have no longer the ability at 78 to continue. This video is hashtag real estate. What you need to know buying real estate in Canada. If you already own real estate, this is what you need to do. As an introduction, I am Trudy Trahan-upchan. I have been a human rights activist all my life and spent the last 18 years fighting for registered owners' real estate rights in Canada. To know why criminals have it so easy, and real estate fraud, title theft, mortgage fraud, estate embezzlement is so easy in Canada, and why do victims have no rights? What I'm outlining here is after 5 years of researching our court system and listening to unbelievable numbers of videos on the subject, the criminal real estate laws in Canada, researching every legal article, blog, and YouTube video, I discovered that not one explains the legal truth so that you can understand it and how you can protect yourself despite the corruption made legal by secret filing. Number one, don't buy in Canada. Real estate is not safe in any province but Saskatchewan. But if you must, make sure you hire a highly experienced real estate lawyer. Not some young person that is green and wet behind the ears, not a criminal lawyer, not a civil lawyer, but a professional real estate lawyer with at least 20 years experience in Canada. Real estate is the most expensive purchase you will ever make in your life, and the one purchase that most people do without any common financial advisement sense. First-time buyers often take more time analyzing the purchase of their clothes than they do on the financial value of their first home. Real estate laws. The laws in Canada, except for Saskatchewan, mean that if you buy land in Canada, as a registered owner, you have absolutely no legal protection in law whatsoever. That little document called a deed in Canada, registered with the provincial registry, is not worth the price of toilet paper. It means absolutely nothing, and you have no legal protection in either provincial or federal law. I have to fix something here. Give me a minute. You think, oh, I got up a little bit early today, and so I made a few boo-boos here. Okie dokie. Okay, number two was real estate laws. Number three, search title. Make sure your experienced lawyer does a physical, detailed search in person at the provincial registry office and does not rely on the internet, Terranet, Tricky T, that's what I call it, system, which is a criminal company, completely corrupt, not controlled by our government, and answers to no one. That's right. A complete company dictatorship in Canada is in complete control of our internet registry system. 2003, our conservative government, careful who you vote for, sold their 50% interest back to Trahan-upchan, leaving us with a system that already was corrupt within Canada prior to the internet. But now with the internet, the Canadian real estate fraud is now worldwide, with victims thinking they are buying land in Canada, but in fact, the fraud is they are given a number, and when they get here, discover they own nothing. Locally in Ontario, I will give you an example of what happened to my mother and I. 5 years after my father's death, my father's executor refused to probate the will. I paid to probate so I could get the matrimonial home registered to us. Our lawyer used the Trahan-upchan system. Years later, when it was already too late to do anything about it, we lost our home, discovering that what was registered was not the matrimonial home, but in fact a vacant lot next door. Yeah. Yes, a vacant lot next door. If you already own real estate in Canada, go to the provincial registry yourself. Don't have to pay a lawyer when it is very easy to search yourself and make sure you actually are the registered owner on the property you think you own. Provincial registry office staff are very helpful, but real estate properties are by a number, not a street address, and only the staff can decipher that stupid system as to whether or not you actually own the property at the address you think you own. Yes. Number 4, title insurance on all real estate properties. Title theft and or mortgage fraud all come under the same title. When purchasing your real estate, insist on your lawyer getting title insurance. If you already own real estate, make sure you get an experienced real estate lawyer to get title insurance. Secret filing laws in Canada, except for Saskatchewan, allow for any person anywhere on the planet in Timbuktu to take title, put their name on title, and put a mortgage on title without you as the registered owner even having the right to be notified. Yeah, done in secret. Legal. Canadian law does not give you any protection, and such fraud is rampant in Canada with over 200,000 cases last year, which national media will not expose. Realtors will not tell you the truth. Most don't even know the truth, and most lawyers do not offer title insurance. Almost 98% of the real estate in Canada does not have title insurance. You have to get it only through a lawyer, and they will not do it because they don't even know it exists, most of them. If you already own real estate, get a lawyer and purchase title insurance. You would not own property without fire insurance. You should never own land in Canada without title insurance, which is a one-time fee and lasts for as long as you own the property. Title insurance protects you from title theft and mortgage fraud. Not all the other ways that it can be stolen, but at least you have that. And that's one of the major causes. Without title insurance, Canadian laws allow for title theft and fraud in secret, and registered owners have absolutely no protection in law whatsoever. Police will refuse to investigate or lay any criminal charges, which means you go to civil court, and in Canada the law protects the criminal, not the victim. Spousal rights on matrimonial home, number 5. If buying a matrimonial home in Canada, except for Saskatchewan, you should be registered as joint tenants, which means your spouse dies, you inherit as sole owner the matrimonial home, free and clear of any capital gains taxes which you apply for when you probate a will. In Canada, except for Saskatchewan, your spouse can in effect divorce you in secret at any time during your marriage and sever joint tenancy on the matrimonial home and all investment real estate without your even having the right to be notified. When they die, after you probate the will, try to transfer title to your name, you can discover you do not own your home or investment properties as joint tenancy has already been severed. You've just lost half your financial worth. Like that. There is absolutely no protection in Canadian law on spousal rights on the matrimonial home or land for that matter except for Saskatchewan. You will have to hire a highly experienced lawyer when buying the matrimonial home to have a separate contract drawn up that is attached to the title on the property at the provincial registry office. Again, do not allow the lawyer to use the criminal corrupt Trahan-upchan system. And this contract would be a codicil stating clearly that no transfer or severance of joint tenancy can be done on title without either a divorce, separation, or consent. This is Saskatchewan law, but these laws do not exist in the rest of Canada. Your only protection is to file a codicil attached on title of the matrimonial home and investment properties. If you already own a home, you need to see a lawyer immediately and make sure you get this codicil filed on title to protect yourself. Case in point. Many seniors get dementia or early stages of Alzheimer's and become delusional. And in that state, behind your back, will sever the joint tenancy, and Canadian law, except for Saskatchewan, allows severance to be done in secret behind your back without your even having the right to be notified. My mother only discovered 10 years after my father's death that he had severed joint tenancy in a sadistic, demented rage, having delusional dementia for several years, so that my brother would be able to steal title to her home, which he did. Our laws were always criminal for 300 years. They weren't that bad when we were under control of France, but when the British took over Canada, that's when our laws became completely criminal. And since 1991, now run by a criminal agency, Trahan-upchan. Secret filing is banned in every country but Canada. Manitoba and Alberta banned secret filing in the mid-1980s, but they left too many loopholes, so in effect you do not have the protection as registered owners that exist in only Saskatchewan and every other country but Canada. Wills and estates. Estate embezzlement in Canada is legal except for Saskatchewan. An executor has the right after you die to take title in secret to all your real estate and sell without having to notify the heirs. In my case, he refused to sell when the market was high, did not pay property taxes for 5 years, and suddenly faced a city tax public auction. Notice of public auction by the city was the first time we got notice. By then it was too late. Forced to sell the estate, sold in duress for a quick sale, and we lost our home in the process. By the time heirs find out, the estate may be sold, the money squandered, and the criminal long gone. And this happens in Canada very often. Thousands every year. Since our laws make it legal, police will not lay any charges, and the heirs are left helpless. Trying to go to court in our corrupt legal system is futile. It will cost you over 6 years, a minimum of $100,000, while you never get either your money or the estate back. If you truly care about your family, make sure you protect your heirs by putting in your will a separate clause. Separate clause should read something to the effect, executor does not have the right to take title to the real estate name all addresses in detail, and does not have the right to sell or withhold sale without consent of the heirs to be in writing in the presence of a lawyer and witnesses. If heirs are unduly uncooperative, keeping the settling of the estate for more than 2 years, they shall be disinherited. If the executor is unduly uncooperative in settling of the estate for more than 2 years, they shall no longer be executor, and automatically I name, and you put in the new name of the alternate executor. My father was legally extremely knowledgeable, and he did what he did because of his sadistic mental state. If at any time you witness a change in personality in your spouse, I strongly advise you get a lawyer to give you the power of attorney to stop insane behavior before it becomes too late. My mother was poorly educated and sadly an enabler, and she would have never done anything to protect herself. And God knows I tried. Secret filing is legal in Canada. If secret filing was banned, Saskatchewan law is made federal, as it should be, Trahan-upchan dismantled, and its corrupt executives in jail. If we had democratic legal rights, protection in real estate laws that every Canadian deserves, I would have been notified of the transfer of title before it happened. I would have stopped my brother from stealing title and embezzling in state funds. Trahan-upchan would not have lost his 2 farms stolen and sold by corrupt lawyers. Last year, over 200,000 non-Canadians who purchased land in Canada as an investment would not have been defrauded by our Trahan-upchan registry, losing both their money and having no valid deed to any land in Canada. Mike McDermott's mother's land would not have been stolen. Secret filing cost Marilyn her home, Carolyn bankrupt and in subsidized housing, Jack, his wife, and 3 children their rights to their father's home, and the hundreds of thousands every year whose names you will never know, victims who media will never cover their stories, who will never get to court because they don't have the money to go to court, and if they did, they would lose anyway. I did research over 100 years of court history, and the majority never made it to court. The ones that made it to court was lower court, and they lost, and only one went all the way to the Supreme Court, and she won. But she did not get back her legal fees or the years that it took her to go to court. And the judge actually stated he didn't think that secret filing was fair. But since she hadn't filed against secret filing under Section 7 of the Charter of Rights, which she could have done, they didn't do anything about the law. But they admitted she should have never had to wind up in court. Okay, number 8. I got sidetracked. Political system. When you live or purchase land in Canada, you need to know that our political system is British, ancient, medieval, and our laws are 2,000 years old, created by a Roman dictator to steal land and embezzle estates. Canada is not a democracy. It is a vile, antiquated, corrupt legal system that is designed by criminals for criminals. I give you for free what took me 18 years and my mother and I robbed of over $500,000 in our home to learn. What you do with this information is entirely up to you, but I do hope you will think very carefully the next time you get your chance to vote and comes around. Think very carefully. Every politician, MP, Member of Parliament, provincial Member of Parliament, party leader in Canada has known these facts for over 100 years and chose to do nothing, letting victims drown in the financial chaos, becoming homeless and bankrupt as a direct result. 1991 Internet Land Registry with corrupt Trahan-upchan, Tricky T is my nickname for Trahan-upchan, Tricky T, then selling off what little control the government has, giving Trahan-upchan, Tricky T, 100% control, answering to no one. Until 1991, for 300 years, real estate fraud was mainly a local problem. Since 1991, Terranet Internet Registry caused real estate fraud on Canadian land to escalate to pandemic proportions worldwide. Welcome to Canada. Now, this is less than 20 minutes long, and I watched a 3-hour video on the problems. So what I'm giving you are solutions. Please share, spread the word, because the media is not telling you, the lawyers aren't telling you, and the realtors aren't going to tell you. Over and out. God bless. That's just allergies. I'm not feeling very well. The air is full of humidity. We're headed for 3 days of storms. But I'm going to put out another video on real estate rights, non-existent in Canada, except for Saskatchewan. I need to clarify Saskatchewan. I did a video yesterday and I got severely attacked by people who didn't like what I had to say. Well, it's a good example of why our laws are so criminal and our court system so corrupt, because people just don't want to believe that it's really happening. The problem is that the victims are suffering from what I call victim shame, just as a rape victim. They aren't willing to talk about it and aren't willing to go public, and most of them just walk away because they don't have $100,000 to fight it in court for 5 years, which I did. And I have lost, by the way. And that story is on my website. But I'm going to talk about one method is fraud. And there's 1,000 different methods of fraud, people. And today I'm going to just talk about one man. His name is Doug McIsaac. He is criminally insane. I mean, criminally insane. Because he could have gotten away, not only did he get away with stealing millions and mega millions of dollars, but he squandered it all on stupid shit and has nothing to show for it. He was running what I would call a mortgage Ponzi scheme. And he got away with it for 10 years because as long as we had inflation, the banks didn't check. So he would remortgage, pretending to do these monster renovations, which he didn't, he only partially did, so that it would look good up front. But he did not complete the renovations in most cases. And he had 31 properties eventually. He started out with one, did a little bit of renovating, got the mortgage doubled. With the mortgage money, he went and bought another 2 or 3 properties. And he kept going for 10 years, at least 10 years, till he got 31 properties. Excuse me. But what he was really doing with the money was his insanity. He did not manage the properties properly. He did not finish the renovations, and the rents were not covering the cost of the mortgages. He would rent to drug pushers, drug addicts, alcoholics, welfare bums. They would squat from up to a year and not pay the rent. And he wouldn't take the time to have them evicted in court. So right there, they were not self-sustaining. He would go out and buy more properties. One, for example, a derelict building that cost $75,000 and would have taken $1 million to renovate, which he didn't have. He was compulsively buying sales, so-called sales, doors, windows, screens. He would go around and collect railway ties. Now you cannot imagine 31 properties and their basements were full of this junk. Sheds were full of junk. One property in Onaping that, so help me God, was very valuable. Half of it was empty, filled with junk. Instead of getting a rental income for all of the would-be apartments, he didn't finish renovating and making them into proper apartments. The plumbing was all there, but he just didn't do it. So that's what I'm talking about, criminally insane. Eventually, the banks had so much fraud in Canada because our laws make fraud easy, okay? And the police will not investigate. They very rarely investigate. And I've been fighting with that all my life. And I'm not going to get into that. Please don't sidetrack me, because I know you're all going to say, it's not happening, it's not happening. She's full of shit, doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, so finally, he took a young renovator, young appraiser, and this man had what I call a silver tongue. He could con the pants off an Eskimo in the middle of December. He was just so good and believable. He got his friends, people that he knew since public school, high school, to invest, and he'd give them a mortgage with a 6% interest. Well, you get like 1% from the bank. So it all looked very good. And because he kept remortgaging, and he would give you a little money here and a little money there, he kept this Ponzi scheme going for 10 years. But what nobody knew was that none of the properties were fully renovated. None of the properties were worth the appraisal value that he had set on them, because he duped the appraiser into making the appraisals too high. And the banks didn't bother to send their own appraisers in and check it. So I come along. My mother's dying. My condition is I can neither read nor write, nor I'm crawling on my hands and knees. I'm in and out of the hospital. I have a tumor that did nerve damage. My father committed fraud, legal fraud, okay, severed joint tenancy in secret, so my mother didn't know she didn't own the properties or the matrimonial home. That's part of our law. It's perfectly legal to do that. You can't get a divorce illegal, but you can sever joint tenancy in the matrimonial home. 60 years later, you find out you don't own what you thought you owned. Yes, it's a violation of the Charter of Rights, Section 7, because your finances have been severely damaged and affected by this, but nobody's doing anything about it. I researched back over 100 years in Supreme Court cases, and only one made it to Supreme Court, and they lost. And the judge did say he thought it was unfair, but nobody did anything about the law. Okay, so that's the whole issue of why there are thousands of victims every day in Canada is very complicated. It's because at the banking level, we have issues. At the police level, we have issues. At the real estate laws, we have issues. At the registration laws, with the provincial registries in Canada, we have issues. Now, getting back to Doug McIsaac, I come along. And my brother has embezzled the estate funds, committed income tax fraud. From 2008 right up until 2014, I couldn't get the police to help me. They would not charge him with a crime. And to this day, he's never been charged with a crime. And now, here we have the city tax department who cooperate in committing fraud, because they don't have to tell you as a registered owner that the taxes aren't being paid. Okay? The entire system is corrupt, people. So then the lawyers come along, and they don't tell you that secret filing is legal. They don't bother to do enough research to tell you what's really going on with the properties. And you can't get rid of an executor as quickly as you think you can. That takes you years, because the lawyers stall you with, they need this evidence, they need that. No, you know, there actually are ways that I could have gotten rid of my brother as an executor in less than a day and a half. But no lawyer was willing to tell me how to do that. And most of them didn't know. And I'm not going to get into that, because nobody cares anyway. So, we are being faced with our taxes not having been paid on an estate worth over at least $1 million. So I sell a property in Wasaga Beach to get my mother out of debt. She's $88,000 in debt. And I think that covers it, but that wasn't it. That was only the tip of the iceberg. I didn't know what was really going on. Like I said, secret filing. I did, as an exec, I kept trying to get copies of the income tax. His lawyer just ignored me. His accountant was cooperating in the fraud. He never got charged either. So make a long story short, I'm facing a public auction, which means our home, our properties, the apartment building, the duplex, everything will go for 10 cents on the dollar, and there's no way for me to stop it. I don't have $75,000 to pay the tax. I spent everything I could to save the vacant land that I had in my name, but there was nothing left. It was all going to the lawyers. So I called Doug McIsaac. I'd known him for over 30 years. I knew he had all these properties. I knew he knew how to buy and sell. I couldn't get a real estate agent because my brother wouldn't cooperate with the sale. So you have to understand, my mother's taken a heart attack. She's terminal. I can barely read or write. I can't walk. I'm in so much pain. I'm in nerve damage. And somehow I have to fight this. So I turned to somebody for help that had knowledge. Well, make a long story short, he conned me out of the matrimonial home. He told me that he was the buyer. In writing, I had it named that he was the buyer, but he flipped the sale to somebody else. And by the time it got through the courts, he then took whatever money I did get, which was $190,000, as an investment, promising to help me get another home for me and my mother, and the whole thing was a scam. The lawyer took over $70,000 from me, $60,000 to be precise, and $10,000 I donated to a case. Tricked me into believing that he cared about the fact that this was a violation of the Charter of Rights, and I could get the law changed in Canada, coast to coast, for every homeowner and every registered owner of real estate in Canada, in every province, would get protection if I could get this affidavit to court. And he had me running in circles and researching and spending all kinds of money, and when I ran out of money, he charged me with disrespect and fired me, and the affidavit was junked. Now, that's only one case. The banks have never gone public with the fraud that Doug McIsaac committed. The police can't lay a charge because nobody's filing charges against him except me. And they said what he did to me was legal, so they can't charge him. See what I mean? Now, yes, there are thousands every day, people, but you'll never hear about them. They don't get charged. The criminal never makes it. The victims never make it to court. And the majority, 99.9% of the victims, won't talk about it, won't give you their name, won't go public. They suffer from victim shame. Somehow they think that they're at fault. Somehow they think that, well, if they'd have done this and they'd done that, it's all my fault. And I'm telling you, I know of a lot of people personally. And I know their names, and I can't give them to you because I swore that I would keep their names secret. They wouldn't even tell me their story. Now, every day I'm going to tell one more story if I can. Real estate rights do not exist in Canada. Fraud is rampant in real estate. Fraud is rampant in our banks. Fraud is rampant to the average person every day, and you're never going to hear about it. They go bankrupt. The lawyers spin them, squeeze all the money they can out of them, and then dump them. It's all being done legally. Canada is completely corrupt. And if I'd have known any better, I'd have stayed in New York. And I want to know why nobody's supporting me? Because they don't believe it. I was attacked on my last video I put on YouTube. Attacked. Yes. I've been in real estate and a lawyer for 35 years, and you're full of shit. Yeah, that's basically what I got, okay? I'm the victim and I'm attacked. Welcome to Canada. Yes, and it made me sick. Why do I keep trying? Well, with my last breath, I'm going to keep trying. I don't care how sick it makes me. Over and out. Screw you. I'm going to try one more time to try and get people to understand. This is Canada, people. Every homeowner, every property owner, every real estate investment you have in Canada, in every province, coast to coast, is under a 2,000-year-old law created by a dictator to steal land, homes, and embezzle estates and their funds. Banned in every country but Canada. Now, I'm not well. I'm 77, and I've been at this for 18 years, going on 19. And I don't know why I can't make anyone understand what I'm talking about. But simply put, if you went to the federal government and under the Charter of Rights, Section 7, you could create the same law in every province as Saskatchewan and eliminate all mortgage fraud, all title theft. Thousands of people coast to coast lose their homes and their real estate investments every day. By the time they get to court, it's 5 years later, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in legal fees. The criminal is long gone, the money's long gone, and the land has been resold. You don't get it back. Now, the internet, when they brought in the new system, Trahan, I can't even say the word, I'm too dyslexic, but anyway, it starts with a T, whatever the hell it is, on the internet, did not create new law. It just took 2,000-year-old laws already in existence in Canada and every province, and carte blanche, put it up on the internet, so now criminals all over the world can steal your home, can rob you of everything you own, and it could so easily be stopped. But you don't understand. I guess I'm just not articulate enough. Now, I have a website with all the evidence and all the documents and all the case histories that I could find. But what you don't understand is most people wind up bankrupt. Police won't charge fraud because it was done through the law, making it legal. And they claim that means you got to go through civil law, which means you got to get a lawyer and you got to go to court. And it's just not going to be okay. They walk away with nothing. The most vulnerable are seniors and women, but they're not the only victims. I know of a young man, a lady neighbor stole his home, and it cost him over $100,000 to get half the house back. And then he had to buy back the other half because she lied and said that they were a common law relationship. Like, what can I tell you, people? What can I tell you? Everyone in Canada that owns any real estate is in jeopardy. The law makes it possible for the crime. The law has been, these laws are banned in every country but Canada. Saskatchewan has complete protection. No severance of joint tenancy without consent and written notice. Nothing can be put on title without registered owners being completely notified in writing, and they have to consent in writing, and it has to be proven in court. Yeah, it takes a little longer, but by God, you're protected. Now, I found ways to get around the law for new owners, but I'm sorry, people. The rest of you are shit out of luck. What's it going to take to make you wake up? Now, I love Duke Ellis and I love Mike Dermott, but nobody understands. It's not the internet, people. It's the law. It's a criminal laws. It took me 18 years, lost over $1 million in investments, and $100,000 in legal fees just to get the information. No charges have been laid, and I've yet to be in court. And I ran out of money. Now, I have Parkinsonism, and I'm terminal. Every day I step outside, I have to wear a gas mask. Every day I go anywhere, I can take an attack like that and die in 20 minutes. So please download my website and save it for the next generation. At least save it so that my life hasn't been a complete waste. It's one thing to be bankrupt and homeless, but it's another that it all be a waste. God help me. Please download my website, people. Wake up. Your politicians all know this. I personally sent the evidence to them, and they have ignored it. The lawyers don't even know themselves how to save you. I had dozens of lawyers. I was a real estate agent. I'm extremely well educated. And I didn't have a clue. So what do you think's happening to the little people and to the workers? They just walk away. They lose everything. Oh, God. What's it going to take? I don't know. Over and out. Because I'm sick and I'm in so much pain, it's hard for me to just sleep. So I tend to work. And I went online and I started doing some research. And I cannot believe the stupidity of we the people and allowing our governments to create laws, which is further to my previous podcast on invitation to commit fraud. Did you know that in some states in the United States, and I apologize to that American who tried to point out to me that there was secret filing in the U.S. Well, I didn't understand that, in fact, it's true. In some states, they are so medieval, you don't even have to register a deed, a transfer of a deed, or a mortgage. You can stick it in a box to be opened when you die. Unbelievable. And in California, they fought to bring in a law that you had to register. But not all the states have done that. And when I look at the history, their laws come from Spain, France, and England, predominantly, depending on which state you're in. And I do know that in French law, I'm going to tell you a little story. In Quebec, in 1964, I met a beautiful woman who was extremely wealthy, a multimillionaire, and owned a cosmetic company that was located in Montreal. And at the time, French law was still in effect. So she and her husband, who was an ambassador, couldn't get married because if she got married, all her assets, money, business, home, investment properties would all be automatically transferred into his name by marriage. That was French law. The only good thing about French law is that if you severed joint tenancy, you had to serve notice first. You had to give notice. You couldn't do it in secret. So imagine that you can own property and transfer title, and it's not registered, and so nobody knows. It's in a box somewhere. And what if they don't find the box? Well, tough tip. I don't know. And this article, of course, didn't indicate which of the states, because I think the research would be so extensive to have to go through all 41 states or how many states they've got. So what a mess. Really, these laws should come under a federal government. Like I've said this before, you can't allow states, when it comes to real estate, to have these stupid laws. Now, in British Columbia, I came across an article and a blog by a legal journal that they're trying to bring in an act. You don't even, here I am fighting secret filing. Well, I'll give you one better. The registry in British Columbia doesn't even know who owns what. You don't even have to register the name
So it's being used, real estate is being used in British Columbia for money laundering. And they're trying to bring in an act to stop this. I mean, I don't know what else. Unbelievable. I'm in contact with Martin McDermott, who's attempting to. He's got a meeting this morning with a member of Parliament to try to bring some to stop the fraud, because these laws are an invitation to fraud. But his issue is with the online system. It's being used. Well, what he didn't realize is the laws and system were broken to begin with. So all they did was expand the disparity in the laws and the invitation to commit fraud. So now online, the situation of fraud is just has escalated and mushroomed beyond a level that's unbelievable. But we the people, what a bunch of friggin' dummies, And I say me, I was educated in real estate for 23 years, and I had no idea that our laws were so wide open for crime. And quite frankly, I don't think my lawyers did either. It's been my experience that the lawyers don't even know the laws. Unbelievable. And I don't know. It'll be up to the next generation to do something to clean it up, because it sure as hell ain't going to happen by mine. Over and out.